Shots ring out in broad daylight. Gun violence in a busy and populated part of Toronto.
One man is shot and seriously injured. Police hunting for the person responsible. Good evening. It happened over the noon hour near Yonge and Sheppard.
The gunfire erupting in an underground public parking lot. CTV's Mike Walker joins us live from the scene with the latest. Mike.
Well, Michelle, Nathan, people who live and work in this area tell us they heard several gunshots. As you can see, there is still a heavy police presence as investigators work to identify the suspect and a possible motive. One man is fighting for his life in hospital after gunshots rang out in an underground parking garage over the lunch hour. Witnesses describe hearing multiple gunshots.
I heard like black, 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 and I just hear sirens.
We just heard loud commotions outside, and then we saw the cops rushing in.
Police say the shooting happened on the ramp near the entranceway to the public parking garage at a condo near Yonge and Sheppard. The victim, a 30-year-old man, was rushed to hospital where he remains in life-threatening condition.
Officers and emergency medical services attended, and they tried to establish life-saving efforts.
There is no known motive yet. Investigators also can't say if the shooting was targeted.
Our gun and gang units on scene, the forensic identification units on scene, as well as several uniformed members are in the area providing security, as well as conducting a follow-up investigation.
It's the second shooting incident in this North York neighborhood this month.
It sounds kind of scary because a lot of people that do live here, they're much more elderly, just young professionals. You don't really see that type of thing here.
The latest data from Toronto Police shows there have been 381 shootings and firearm discharges in the city this year, up 44% from a year ago, resulting in 39 deaths and 94 people injured.
Any shooting in the city is one shooting too many.
The police chief and mayor weighing in on the rising gun violence while attending a prayer walk downtown this afternoon.
We remain laser focused on ensuring the safety of our communities, focusing on gun violence as a priority for us as an organization. You know, the need for us to come together to prevent these types of events, intervene, and when necessary, do enforcement.
The mayor says the city can do more to address the root causes of gun violence.
Whether it's our Parks and Rec program, recreation program, after school programs, a place where in the school that young people can feel they belong, that they can find purpose rather than picking up a gun.
In this latest shooting, police have not yet released any suspect information. Now, police say there is no threat to public safety following this shooting incident. Investigators are continuing to canvass the area right now for witnesses and anyone who may have surveillance or dash cam footage. Reporting live on Mike Walker. Michelle, back to you.
Thank you, Mike. And as he mentioned, as officers investigated the shooting near Yonge and Sheppard, an event downtown focused on creating a safer city.
Today, Lord God, we come to cry out for prayer. We pray for peace for our city.
This prayer walk is an annual event and happens across Toronto. The chief of police, the mayor, and community faith leaders started at Yonge and Dundas and walked to the First Baptist Church, Toronto, to promote peace on our streets.
Because we need to come back to a place of humanity with respect, care, and love for each other.
A walk has taken place every month for the past 19 years in an Etobicoke neighborhood.
Still ahead, police call it incredibly disturbing and they want to get to the bottom of it before someone is killed. Several reports of someone throwing rocks at moving cars in York region.
But first, we turn to a tragic scene overnight on the Lakeshore.
4 people killed in a horrific and fiery crash involving an electric vehicle. CTV's Beth McInerney joins us live near the scene at Lakeshore and Cherry. Beth.
Nathan, Toronto police call this collision heartbreaking. 3 men and 2 women were in the Tesla that crashed, and only 1 woman survived. This is the smashed up and burnt out Tesla being carefully taken away. The end result of an electric vehicle crash killing 4 people in their 20s and 30s.
I can't even express how horrible I feel for the people involved, the families. Like, that's just, oh my gosh, it's terrible.
Monica McNairn passed by the crash shortly after midnight.
All you see is this bright yellow, red, orange burst of flames. Like, it is so intense and just so, honestly, it's terrifying. And at first we didn't hear any screaming or anything, but as we got closer, all we could hear was just people wailing and screaming, and it was just eerie.
The fiery collision happened on Lakeshore near Cherry Street. Toronto police say the Tesla was going east at a high rate of speed.
The vehicle lost control, struck a guardrail, and then struck a concrete pillar. Upon impact, the vehicle then caught fire.
The lone survivor is a woman in her 20s. She has non-life-threatening injuries after being rescued by a bystander.
Thanks very much to that bystander. We have been speaking to them, and obviously they are also deeply affected by this incident. It's a very horrific scene for that bystander to step in.
This is video of other Tesla vehicles on fire in the U.S. Firefighters here say electric vehicle fires require more water than a gas-powered vehicle fire, and the intensity of the one today is linked to the battery cells in the Tesla. Crews say they also had to take extra care in reopening Lakeshore to traffic and removing a battery pack ejected during the collision.
One of the concerns that we do have with these types of issues is thermal runaway and the fact that these can reignite for up to weeks and weeks later.
Police say while there is evidence speed was a factor, it's too early to say if the fire or the impact of the crash was the primary cause for the loss of life.
Our sympathy goes out to all those who were directly affected, family, friends, and anyone close who's been affected by this incident.
But the answer, police say, will come as traffic services and the coroner continue to investigate how the 4 people died. Traffic on Lakeshore is moving once again to reduce the risk, remove the risk of that battery that got ejected from the Tesla. Toronto Fire Services put that battery in a dump truck, put sand on it, and took it to a safe location. Reporting live, I'm Beth McDonnell. Nathan and Michelle, back to you.
Thank you, Beth. Also tonight, the Canadian government changes course, opting to reduce immigration. The plan to put a pause on population growth following years of expansion.
But first, a look at the forecast. Here's a live shot. It looks lovely outside, a bit cooler than what we've been used to of late, so definitely wear a jacket if you're heading out tonight. And it looks like this trend will continue for the next few days. Jessica Smith is here, and this is really normal this time of year.
It has just been so long since we've seen seasonal weather that this feels like quite a shock, but we're really just back to where we should be, and it has been a very standard issue fall day. Now, we're not done with the warmer weather just yet, but at least as we head in towards the end of the work and school week, we are seeing a significant cool down back to that seasonal point. Temperature-wise, we're still kind of in the low double digits, a few single digits out there, but we are still quite comfortable with a light wind as we step into the early part of our evening. But as Nathan mentioned, if you're going out this evening, a jacket, a light sweater, probably a good idea. Sweater weather has returned for at least a couple of days. Right now, we're at 10 apiece through the islands and through Pearson, sitting very seasonal tonight at 5. Coming up, I'll have a full look at your long-range forecast as we step into the weekend. Right now, it's back over to Nathan.
Thank you, Jess. We turn to the heightened effort to stop a senseless and potentially deadly crime. Rocks being thrown at moving vehicles in York region.
Take a look at the damage done to this car. Just imagine how badly the driver could have been hurt. CTV's John Musselman joins us live from Highway 48 and Major Mackenzie Drive East with the latest on this situation. John.
And Michelle, we do know that at least one person has been critically injured because of what's going on up here, and police want the public's help to try to stop it. We first reported these rock-throwing incidents last month. In this video, you can see a car speeding off the roadway and slamming into another vehicle near Highway 48 and Major Mackenzie Drive in Markham. The force of the collision sent 2 people to hospital. One of them remains in critical condition. York Regional Police say it has happened again. Last Saturday, rocks were tossed from a moving car, striking 2 vehicles.
This is incredibly dangerous. A static projectile that's coming at a vehicle that's moving at a high rate of speed is only going to cause serious damage. We've already seen in cases cars leaving the roadway, and the last thing we want is anyone else hurt as a result of this.
It comes after the OPP reported similar incidents in York region, mostly along Highway 48. The most recent rock throwing happened on 16th Avenue and Mingay Avenue around 1 a.m. on Saturday. About 30 minutes later, there was a report at McCowan and Stouffville Road. The OPP incidents have been along stretches of Highway 48 near Major Mackenzie Drive.
I really am encouraging the public to come forward and to, if there's any information, any suspicious things that you see, please get a hold of us. Let us know. It's been my experience that with these kinds of investigations in the past, we rely heavily on the public to help us solve them.
These incidents are happening late at night or after 1 a.m. when the roads are dark. The person responsible has not been caught yet, so police are advising people to be aware of this potential danger.
This would be no one's fault if it were to happen to them, but we want to do everything we can to mitigate any further injuries.
This is very concerning, very troubling. We're now talking almost a month that these incidents have been ongoing. And obviously, I can't imagine what's going through somebody's mind when they're throwing a rock out the window of a moving vehicle. But obviously, we want to get to the bottom of this very quickly.
Investigators do not believe these are isolated incidents. John Musselman, CTV News. Again, so if you know any information about this, you're asked to call York Regional Police or Crime Stoppers. Reporting live in York Region, I'm John Musselman. I'll send it back to you.
All right. Thank you, John. A 53-year-old woman who was struck by a vehicle in Scarborough over the weekend has now died. It happened Saturday afternoon at an intersection near Lawrence and Marcos Boulevard, just west of Brimley. Toronto police say the woman was crossing at Lawrence when she was struck. The driver, a 72-year-old man, remained on scene. The woman was taken to hospital with critical injuries and has now died. And there's no word on whether charges will be laid.
You saw it as a developing story last night. Hundreds of cyclists converging at Queen's Park.
They called on the government to backpedal on a plan that could curb bike lanes in our city. It's an important issue that isn't going away. And today, a former city planner weighed in. CTV's Sean Leathong joins us live with this story. Sean.
Well, Nathan and Michelle, when we look along Bloor right now, you can see the cars are moving pretty slowly, the bikes are moving pretty fast, and I wanted to talk to an expert just to see how our cycling network is doing. But one thing is for sure, this bike lane debate is generating a lot of opinions. The debate over bikes in Toronto seemed to put people in one of two lanes.
We can fight congestion, but also keep people safe.
Let's all go around and hop on our bicycle and go down the crowded streets that are just absolute insanity right now.
Along Bloor, where Premier Ford has said bike lanes could be taken out.
I think it'll relieve a lot of congestion for the cars and hopefully get things moving a little bit quicker.
While others say cars are the problem.
Look at all the cars here. It's only one driver, that's it.
When it comes to relieving congestion, former chief planner for the City of Toronto, Jennifer Keesmaat, says our cycling infrastructure is just coming of age.
So I will say we're like a young adult. We're not a baby and we're not all grown up yet.
She says building out bike lanes is already showing a major uptick when looking at bike share, from just over 600,000 rides back in 2017.
In 2023, there were 5.7 million rides. That's just on bike share. Remember, the number of people riding their own bikes is much, much higher than bike share.
Pointing to data that says cyclists are more likely to stop and shop along main roads than drivers, Keesmaat's worked on cycling networks in other cities and says there are examples of what a comprehensive cycling network can offer.
Two great cities, Paris and London, England, in just 5 years have gone through a flip, an inversion. The majority of commutes used to be by car. The majority of commutes now happen by bike.
Last night, hundreds of cyclists came to Queen's Park to protest the Ford government's plan to possibly take some bike lanes out along Bloor, University, and Yonge Street. Keesmaat says while cycling in Toronto is growing rapidly, we haven't yet finished creating and connecting our cycling network. So,
to pull them out would be like ripping up a project in midstream. It's not even complete yet.
Now, one area that Keesmaat points to is Eglinton Avenue. There's some sections there that do have dedicated bike lanes, but they're only sporadic. So people may get frustrated because they don't see anybody driving their bikes or riding their bikes in those lanes. Keesmaat says she understands it's because the project is not yet complete and it has to be given time. Reporting live, I'm Sean Leathong. Nathan and Michelle, send it back to you.
Thank you, Sean. Ottawa plans to reduce the number of immigrants coming to Canada.
The Prime Minister says his government went too far in its response to a labor shortage. CTV's Mike Lecoutel reports.
With the announcement came an admission that after the pandemic, the government didn't strike the right balance on immigration.
With the plan we're announcing today, along with previously announced measures, we're making our immigration system work better.
To do that, Canada will curb how many people we welcome each year. The annual target has been 500,000 permanent residents. That number will be reduced by more than 20% for each of the next 3 years. The government says immigration levels were high to fill jobs after the pandemic, but it's no longer needed.
I think labor shortage is going into it and coming out, and we adjusted. Did we take too long to adjust? I think there's some responsibility there to assume.
The reduction of permanent residents comes after the government slashed the number of international student permits it hands out. Still, some economists say today's announcement could be an overcorrection.
So too aggressive in terms of bringing down population growth, essentially flatlining it very quickly, very suddenly, has high potential for disruption.
There's also concern from people who fight for migrant rights.
There's fewer spots for permanent residency, which means more people will remain in temporary residence permits, which, among other things, the UN has called a system of contemporary form of slavery.
The government believes limiting immigration will help the housing crisis in this country. According to one housing report, to restore affordability, Canada needs to build 3.5 million more homes on top of what's under construction. According to Statistics Canada, 2023 saw record population growth that hasn't been seen since the 1950s. Now, Minister Miller says today's measures will result in our population decreasing by 0.2% in the next 2 years. Mike Lecouteur, CTV News, Ottawa.
Meanwhile, the Prime Minister is vowing to stay on as Liberal leader.
That declaration today, 24 hours after a tense caucus meeting where Trudeau told 24 MPs want him to step down by next week. CTV's Rachel Aiello has the latest from Parliament Hill.
Are you planning on staying as Prime Minister past October 28th?
Yes.
Staring down a deadline delivered by disaffected Liberals during yesterday's emotionally charged Liberal caucus meeting, Justin Trudeau said today he's staying and focused on fighting Pierre Poilievre.
We're going to continue to have great discussions about how I can best lead the Liberal Party forward. We're focused on winning the next election, and we've got a great team around us to do it.
Despite the efforts to show a united front, Trudeau is still facing more than 20 MPs who want a new leader, and said as much to his face behind closed doors yesterday.
I don't think that he felt that he needed to reflect at all. I think his mind was made up.
The Prime Minister's assertion coming less than 24 hours after telling his caucus he'd reflect on what he'd heard likely won't satisfy those MPs' concerns, with some suggesting they'd consider voting with the opposition if Trudeau didn't resign by October 28.
I have had conversations with numerous Liberal MPs. Some of them say that they're worried that the carbon tax will cost them their seats.
Even if Trudeau can corral his caucus, his minority government's grip on power could be in peril, as the Bloc Québécois ultimatum seeking support on a pair of bills expires next week.
If there is a weakened Liberal Party, both the Bloc and the NDP might have an incentive to bring the government down.
Trudeau is adamant that he is sticking around, but big tests of his leadership are looming. He'll soon be shuffling his cabinet, and some grassroots Liberals are petitioning for him to go. Rachel Aiello, CTV News, Ottawa.
To developing stories south of the border, in Los Angeles, prosecutors will recommend Eric and Lyle Menendez be resentenced for the 1989 killings of their parents.
I have to tell you that after a very careful review of all the arguments that were made for people on both sides of this equation, I came to a place where I believe that under the law, resentencing is appropriate, and I am going to recommend that to a court tomorrow.
The LA County DA's office will recommend the brothers be sentenced to 50 years to life, but they will be eligible for parole immediately because they were under 26 years old at the time of the crimes. The brothers were sentenced in 1996 after admitting they fatally shot their father and mother. They said they feared their parents were about to kill them to stop people from finding out the father had sexually abused the brothers for years.
In the Middle East, Palestinian medical officials say an Israeli strike on a school where displaced people were sheltering killed at least 17 people today. 42 others were injured in the attack in the built-up Nuizarat refugee camp in central Gaza. The Israeli military said it hit a Hamas command and control center embedded in a compound formerly used as a school.
In northern Israel, police say an 84-year-old man was injured by shrapnel when a rocket was fired from Lebanon today. An apartment building was also damaged in the attack. Hezbollah began firing rockets and missiles and drones into Israel after the war in Gaza began. That conflict started following the deadly Hamas attack on Israel on October 7th.
Meanwhile, an international conference for Lebanon raised $1 billion today for humanitarian aid and military support. The pledges were made at the gathering of more than 70 countries in Paris. French organizers said the fighting between Hezbollah militants and Israel has killed more than 2,500 people, displaced 1 million others, and deepened an economic crisis. $800 million is for humanitarian aid. $200 million will go to Lebanon's security forces.
The king participated in a traditional Samoan ceremony during his first full day on the Pacific Island nation. The monarch attended a traditional ava. It's a ceremony in honor of his arrival. He drank a ceremonial beverage handed to him, a ritual marking important occasions in Samoa. The king is on a 3-day visit that will include a meeting of the Commonwealth heads of government. Member countries are expected to issue a declaration on protecting the ocean, with climate change a key topic for discussion at the gathering.
Back here at home, it could be welcome news for anyone in Ontario who has struggled with fertility.
The province has announced new funding for treatment and services, as well as a tax credit for people trying to conceive. CTV's Queen's Park Bureau Chief Siobhan Morris has the details.
The path to becoming mom and dad isn't always smooth. With fertility obstacles, there can be years of anguish, heartbreak, and tens of thousands of dollars spent.
Worrying about when or how your family will access key services on the journey to parenthood should be the least of your concerns.
The government is boosting spending on the Ontario Fertility Program by $150 million over the next 2 years.
Tripling the number of families able to receive government-funded in vitro fertilization cycles at more hospitals and community clinics.
Something Jones says will help tens of thousands more Ontarians. The province covers the cost of one round of IVF treatment, but a new lifeline is coming in the form of a tax credit.
Up to 25% of eligible expenses for Ontario residents, which may include IVF cycles, fertility medications, travel for treatment, and diagnostic testing.
Up to a maximum of $5,000 a year.
We're over the moon.
Zane Colt, chair of advocacy group Conceivable Dreams, says today's announcement will mean so much to so many families
that are currently undergoing fertility treatment and so many that are also stuck on the wait list looking to get fertility coverage as well.
It's a life in limbo Colt and his wife understand well.
We just started our second round of IVF. I think she's going to be taking her first shot this evening.
It took years, but Colt became a dad last summer through IVF and surrogacy. The struggle all fell away in the delivery room.
A birth unlike any other. It was routine and there wasn't a dry eye in the room. It was fantastic.
An experience more Ontarians may soon be able to share.
The new proposed tax credit would be available starting in January. The funding included as part of next week's fall economic statement, a mini budget from the finance minister. Siobhan Morris, CTV News.
Coming up on CTV News, giving the gift of life not once, but twice. We meet a young woman who has the distinction of being a 2-time living organ donor. Her story still to come.
And I'm Pat Foran. Coming up on Consumer Alert, the federal government made changes to help first-time home buyers buy a home. That includes allowing 30-year mortgages. Your monthly payments will be lower, but you'll pay a lot more in interest charges. All of that story, that's just ahead.
And it's been an unusual month with the fluctuating temperatures and the lack of rain. Coming up, I'll have a full look at your long-range forecast, including the chance of showers tomorrow, the temperatures cooling and then warming back up again before the month is all said and done. And stay with us. We have another full night of great shows for you right here on CTV.
In August, the federal government allowed 30-year mortgage amortizations for first-time homebuyers purchasing new builds.
The rules expand in December to all first-time homebuyers and to all buyers of new builds, but those extra 5 years do come at a cost. Here's Pat Foran and a Consumer Alert. Pat.
Thanks, Michelle and Nathan. The government says the changes are a way to help more Canadians realize the dream of home ownership. Adding 5 years to a 25-year mortgage will give you lower monthly payments, but you'll pay a lot more in interest charges. First-time home buyers can now get a 30-year insured mortgage amortization when purchasing newly built homes. On December 15th, the program will be open to all first-time home buyers and to all buyers of new builds. It's part of several measures designed to make housing more affordable.
It's about making that first home more available for young Canadians, for first-time home buyers.
Those extra 5 years could help some first-time home buyers get into the market, but at an added cost.
The increase in amortization is a trap. You're going to be working till, you're past retirement.
Mark Nixon, a commercial mortgage broker, says the 30-year amortization plan is good news for developers and bankers, but in the end, home buyers will pay the price with added interest. If you have a $950,000 mortgage at a 4.5% interest rate, switching from 25 years to 30 will allow you to have a monthly payment that is $466 lower. However, taking an extra 5 years to pay off your mortgage will see you pay almost $150,000 more in interest.
The banks are going to make a killing.
Mortgage broker Ron Butler calls 30-year mortgages unfortunate but necessary.
But to even give the slightest chance to young people, you need to give them a 30-year amortization. And regrettably, that just means there's a ton of extra interest.
In the U.S., Americans are allowed to deduct mortgage interest they pay on their homes on their taxes, an idea Nixon says could benefit Canadians.
I mean, they do it in the U.S. I don't know why they're not doing it in Canada. It's getting so unaffordable. It's discouraging for our young people.
Longer mortgages may help some Canadians get into the housing market, but it's important to crunch the numbers so you know how much those extra 5 years will cost you. And even if you take a 30-year mortgage, you could still try to make extra payments to reduce the balance. And depending on your situation, you might be able to refinance in the future and reduce the mortgage term. On your side, I'm Pat Foran.
If you have a consumer story idea, email us at alert@ctv.ca.
Well, this hour, we're barely hanging on to double digits. It's definitely a lot cooler, but we did have that sunshine today, which I thought made it look quite lovely out there.
Yeah, I think if you're standing in the sun, especially during the day, it feels different. But when the sun goes down, it seems like it just gets cool immediately.
It does, and we're at the time of year where you lose any heat that we had throughout the day. It's gone. It's gone. As soon as that sun sets, you have to put on a sweater or some kind of layer. And the sunset happening today at 6:19, so it's over now. We're done with the daylight until tomorrow. But the good news is it's fairly seasonal this evening, but it's also a single digit, so it's a little bit fresh out there. So a layer or two, probably a good idea if you have outdoor plans. But throughout the day, it was quite beautiful. A nice shot from the chopper here, wide shot out as you're making your way into the GTA, and the fall colors on display. A little bit of cloud cover early on, and it kind of lingered throughout the afternoon, but we saw a decent amount of sunshine, and we are staying fairly seasonal as we wrap up the day today and step in towards our Friday. We are looking at this transition that really happened almost overnight yesterday. We went from being well above seasonal to kind of right around where we should be. We hold on to this kind of sweet spot with our weather for just a little bit longer before another change takes place. We're at 10 here in the city, 13 through Windsor. Almost everybody holding on to fairly close to seasonal temps, but it's still really warm right now. Areas through Thunder Bay sitting at 13. Tonight, we are at 5. Just a few days ago, we were looking at a low of about 17 or 18 degrees, so we're back to where we should be with a really light northerly flow to the wind. It is a little below seasonal the further east you go, but we are typically kind of right across southern Ontario for tonight where we should be. Some frost advisories in place through areas between Brampton and Oakville, St. Catharines and Niagara, and they're looking at some frigid weather as we head through the evening. Into the day tomorrow, back to where we should be again after such a warm stretch to start the week, which was just 2 or 3 days ago. We're back to those kind of more seasonal fall October norms. We'll sit at 15. We should be at 11. We are watching again for the chance of rain. This low, a little more organized, but likely to kind of come through at that midpoint of the day and then be gone before they commute home for a lot of people. Right now, it's sitting in northern Ontario. It will push that high pressure out of place. It's on the leading edge of that cold front, and then we will see it push out just in time for your weekend. So really nothing super organized. And again, we are looking at more of a light rain or a drizzle. By no means is this a downpour. As we head through the rest of our evening and into the start of the day tomorrow, it's not too shabby. And into the start of our Friday, lots of sunshine out there. But that system moves in as we kind of head through that midpoint of our day as we see it cross the Great Lakes. Again, by no means is it a downpour. Heavier showers from London through to Hamilton for us here in the city. More of a light rain and just a whole lot of cloud cover as we head into our Friday afternoon before it pushes out. We are still watching for the tail end of that system to kind of bring the chance of very scattered showers as we head in towards our Saturday morning, likely a sun shower if anything, and then into the afternoon, beautiful, a very textbook. You open up the textbook for fall weather and that's what you get as you head throughout your weekend. Now, Temperature-wise, it has cooled down pretty significantly, but as we head in towards the beginning of next week, it goes right back up. So we went from 26 degrees earlier this week back down to seasonal as we head throughout the weekend, and then into the beginning of next week, we're going back up and into the long-range forecast. We're still quite a few days out, but we look ahead to Halloween, and if you got trick-or-treaters in your life, the forecast looking not too bad. We're very seasonal as we head throughout the day tomorrow. The overnight lows through your Saturday and Sunday are pretty cold and sitting below that seasonal norm. So if you do have evening plans, layers are going to be key. But it's sunny and high pressure holds on right throughout. Into Monday, we start to warm up a little bit. Into Tuesday, we're back into that mid-teen range overnight, dropping down to 12. Through your Wednesday and Thursday, we're looking at about 22 degrees to 20 degrees. That's throughout the day. So into the evening for the trick-or-treaters and those who participate, it won't still be 20 degrees, but we're still holding on well above seasonal. So the cool down back to that seasonal mark really is quite short-lived. As we head throughout the week, we are watching for the slight chance of showers passing throughout the day on Thursday, but keeping a close eye on that trick-or-treating forecast because I know a lot of folks are keen on that one. Right now, it is really mild and there's just a little bit of cloud cover out there. So it's spooky, hopefully in a good way for the people getting out and getting festive for Halloween. Nathan, I'll send things back to you.
All right, always fun. Thank you, Jess.
Thanks.
Also tonight, building a new life in a different world and taking it to the next stage. We chat with the producer of The Noose, a play about the Haitian immigrant experience.
A remarkable young woman is talking about her experiences as a living organ donor.
It's something she did not just once, but twice in her life. And as our health reporter Pauline Chan tells us, both recipients were complete strangers.
In 2015, when Jocelyn Leeworthy was 19, she had a relative who was seriously ill, prompting her to consider whether she might be a living organ donor.
I was volunteering at the hospital for sick children, and I really got some perspective of what it's like for kids and families in the hospital and how illness can impact their quality of life.
And while her relative didn't need her, she decided to go ahead with giving a part of her liver to help a child in need.
I was at university 2 weeks later writing my midterm exams, and other than being a little tired, I was feeling really well.
Leeworthy, now a child life specialist at Oakville Trafalgar, knows nothing about that organ recipient, but every October, the anniversary of the transplant, they exchange cards. Her second anonymous organ donation in January of 2021 was a kidney as part of a chain of kidney donations to help a group of patients at the height of COVID.
My kidney went to somebody from London Health Sciences, and they did let me know that it got a police escort to get there. So it's kind of neat to have that image.
She's only 28 now, and Jocelyn still has many decades ahead of her, but she says living with just one kidney was deemed to be safe for her. She also has a form of albinism, which was not a factor in her organ donations.
I think, first and foremost, I think it's important that you make an informed decision.
Dr. Nazia Selzner says anonymous living donations have grown tremendously since Toronto's first in 2005.
Particularly in the last few years, we have actually doubled the number of the anonymous living liver donors. And it has become an integral part of our program. So we accept anybody who is between the age of 16 to 60 years of age, as long as they are otherwise healthy. So no major chronic health issues, no history of cancer, for example, no history of diabetes.
There is somebody walking around out there that has a part of my organ inside of them, and it's allowing them to do these wonderful things in their life that I've had the opportunity to do, like getting an education and making memories with my friends and family.
For more information on anonymous living organ donations, contact the Ajmera Transplant Center at the University Health Network. Pauline Chan, CTV News.
A new study finds despite more healthcare workers in the field, there are still millions of Canadians in search of a family doctor. It found that last year, 5.4 million adults in this country were without a regular primary care provider, about 17%. More than 26 million adults did have a family doctor, about 83%. Access is highest in Ontario, with 88% able to see a family doctor, and lowest in Nunavut at 42%. The report also says more research is needed to evaluate the changing landscape, particularly in ways to alleviate some of the strain put on healthcare providers.
The city is paying tribute to a longtime child care advocate.
It's an actual key, yeah.
Mayor Olivia Chow presented her first ever Key to the City to Martha Friendly. Friendly is a leading member of Canada's childcare movement who has championed an equitable, universal, high-quality system for more than 50 years.
Martha Friendly has been a trailblazer, shaping policies that have improved access to quality childcare for families across Toronto and beyond. Her work has strengthened early learning system. Her commitment to the cause have touched the lives of countless children and families, help us build stronger and inclusive communities. She's relentless.
Today's presentation coincided with the annual Child Care Worker and Early Childhood Educator Appreciation Day.
The Jonas Brothers are brushing up on their Canadian trivia. The pop rock band from the U.S. is getting ready for its appearance at the 111th Grey Cup.
All right, we're starting up, guys. We're going to see if these are real, fake cities or towns in Canada. First up, we have, I can't read that. Peekaboo Corner, New Brunswick. I'm going real. Yeah, feels real. It's too silly. It's real. It's real.
Nick, Joe, and Kevin had some fun with names of small towns and cities here in Canada. And for the most part, they did pretty well. The Jonas Brothers will perform during the halftime show in November 17th in Vancouver.
Here at home, the 17th annual Next Stage Theatre Festival is on stage now at Buddies and Bad Times Theatre.
It offers 6 plays all in one space, including a beloved Haitian play translated into English for the first time. CTV's Andrea Case has the story.
At the age of 26, U of T theater and performance graduate Abigail Whitney is a first-time producer, but this is the 5th play she's had a hand in directing.
I began as an actor and just jumped at the first opportunity that I could get to direct while still being a performer at U of T.
But it's her love of her familial home, Haiti, which inspires her the most. Her current passion is the Haitian play, The Noose. First written in 1978, it was a big hit in Haiti. Then in 1997, a translated version hit the stage in Montreal. In 2019, the translator reached out to her after seeing a play she had directed.
And I thought, you know, this is me sharing the story of how Haitians are feeling and how much they love Haiti and how much they wish to go back and how hard it is to leave the country that they love and trying to build a new life in a new country and just the struggles that they're facing to survive.
Abigail Whitney began working on the play The Noose before the pandemic, but now with the misinformation about Haitians in Springfield, Ohio during this U.S. presidential election, this has turned out to be the perfect time to mount this play about the Haitian immigrant experience.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, it's really emotional.
I can give you a hug.
Oh, I wasn't expecting that. Oh my gosh, but yeah, it's also like I've never been to Haiti, but like this is my chance to kind of bring Haiti to me, you know?
And to you, the audience.
The play is about 2 Haitian migrants of different classes. So one's a Haitian middle-class intellectual, and the other is a lower-class laborer. And they're both rooming together in a New York basement apartment. And it's really been a chance to share about my culture. And yeah, I've never had the chance to see Haitian theater in Toronto, so it's kind of like a gift to myself and a gift to the audience to kind of experience a culture that I've, grew up with in the 4 corners of my home.
From her home to the Next Stage Fringe Festival, on stage now until Sunday, October 27th. Andrea Case, CTV News.
Some places roll out the red carpet for visiting VIPs, but the Superdome in New Orleans had a different idea as it prepares to welcome Taylor Swift to town. 2 giant friendship bracelets have been placed on the stadium where the singer will play 3 shows starting tomorrow night. They are inflatable nylon replicas of the type of bracelets that Swifties make and trade with each other. Each bead with a letter on it 7 feet tall. Now, the bracelets have been positioned on either side of the dome, where about 150,000 fans will attend the concerts.
After the break, a big celebration in the Big Apple. Thousands line the streets in downtown Manhattan for the first time WNBA champions, the New York Liberty.
We just heard loud commotions outside, and then we saw the cops rushing in.
Updating our top stories, a man suffered life-threatening injuries after being shot near Yonge and Sheppard. It happened on a ramp near the entrance to a public parking garage. No details yet on the circumstances of the shooting. There have been no arrests.
Our sympathy goes out to all those who were directly affected, family, friends, and anyone close who's been affected by this incident.
4 people were killed in a single vehicle crash on Lakeshore Boulevard. Police say the electric vehicle lost control, struck a guardrail and then a pillar. A woman in the vehicle survived. An investigation continues.
The plan we're announcing today, along with previously announced measures, we're making our immigration system work better.
The Liberals are reducing immigration goals by 20%. The plan is to bring in 395,000 new permanent residents in 2025 and 2026. That number will decrease to 365,000 in 2027. The government says it failed to balance Canada's intake of newcomers following the COVID-19 pandemic.
Remember to keep up to date day and night at ctvnewstoronto.ca and by downloading the CTV News app.
Tesla helped push U.S. stocks to their first gain this week. Andrew Bell of B&M Bloomberg has the details in business.
Hello there. Shares in Tesla surged 22% today after the carmaker reported surprisingly strong profits. And the company's new Cybertruck generated a profit for the first time. Despite today's jump, Tesla stock is still down more than 30% since 2021. The gain today helped to push the U.S. stock market higher after 3 days of declines. The Canadian dollar traded at 72.19 US cents, down almost 1/10 cent. West Texas Intermediate oil was at $70.19, down 58 cents. Western Canadian Select oil, by our latest fix, was at $58.10, down 94 cents. And the TSX Composite ended at 24,551.55, down just over 22 points. That's the latest in business. I'm Andrew Bell of B&M Bloomberg.
The Business Report is brought to you by Canadian Western Bank, the bank built for business.
Used car shoppers may be in for a bit of sticker shock. Autotrader.ca reports the average price of a second-hand vehicle was just over $3,500 last month. That compares to an average of just under $1,900 back in December of 2019. The company says fewer cars were produced in the years following the pandemic. Lingering supply chain issues hampered production. Experts say now there aren't enough off-lease vehicles to keep up with demand.
All right, to hockey now. Goaltender Joseph Woll will make his season debut tonight. The 26-year-old will get the start against St. Louis at Scotiabank Arena. Woll has yet to play because of a groin injury, but today, head coach Craig Berube said he is good to go. Fellow netminder Anthony Stolarz has done well in Woll's absence, winning 3 games in 5 appearances. The visit by the Blues also marks the first game for Berube against his former team.
Meanwhile, Emmanuel Quickly is considered questionable for tomorrow night's home game against Philadelphia. The starting point guard left last night's season opener with a right pelvic contusion after falling hard. Quickly had 13 points, 4 assists, and 2 rebounds before exiting the game, which Cleveland won 136-106. And basketball took center stage along Manhattan's Canyon of Heroes today. A ticker tape parade was held for the WNBA champion New York Liberty. Thousands lined the streets in celebration of the franchise's first championship. The Liberty defeated the Minnesota Lynx in overtime in a decisive Game 5 of the finals on Sunday.
Just ahead, the hottest trend in the world of doggy fashion. Dog owners lap up the new Crocs for dogs. Yes, this is real, and they are positively popular.
Finally tonight, a popular type of footwear has been adapted for our furry friends.
It turns out Crocs are a big hit with dog owners. The company introduced Crocs designed for canines this week as part of its Croctober campaign. And so far, they've been a huge success. In fact, the new line quickly sold out at $50 a pair. So anyone wanting to fetch the pet a set, We'll have to wait until they're back in stock. Now, Crocs says customers can sign up for notifications on its website. You find this amusing. You're laughing through.
I love you reading this story.
I didn't write this, but you know.
They have charms. They have charms for the little booties.
I love everything about this.
But don't you think dogs would just chew them? Like, my dogs would have totally eaten them.
I've never had a pair of flip-flops or Crocs that have survived with leaving them out with my dog around. But anybody can wear Crocs this time of year because the weather is still pretty nice. You don't have to wear your winterized Crocs, not yet. But it is going to be very seasonal over the next couple of days. But the overnight lows do get a little chilly, so layers are going to be important. We have a few light clouds out there right now, but they push out this evening. Right now, sitting at about 10 degrees. It's pretty comfortable as we wrap up our day. If you are heading out for a walk, maybe getting your steps in, walking your dog, shoes or not, for the dogs, I mean, we are holding on to fairly comfortable weather. Now, into the next couple of days, we do cool down before warm-up begins next week.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jess. That's it for us, but you can join Omar Sajidina tonight at 11 for CTV National News, followed by Zoraida Allman with your next local newscast at 11:30.
In the meantime, our coverage continues anytime on CP24 and at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Jessica Smith and the whole team here at CTV News, thanks for watching. Have a great night.
So you found it amusing.